Best.Podcast.Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that's changing the way businesses retain their attorneys. Go to gertzberglaw.com to learn more. While you're there, check out Cover My Six, a complete legal audit of the 6 areas that most often create or prevent business lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how we keep you safe. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
Failure is an experience that's only productive if you can take inventory of what went wrong.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. This is Best Podcast Ever, and this is a limited series that we've created called My Colossal Failure. And as the name would suggest, it's about entrepreneurs who have failed, which if you are a good entrepreneur, if you're a successful entrepreneur, you've done many times and you've done colossally. We all have those stories, and I am no different. I have failed many times, but every entrepreneur that I know that I admire, that's an inspiration to me, has these great stories and has these great examples that show that as successful as they look today, they never just waved a magic wand and became this way instantly. They failed over and over and over again, and usually in a massive way. And there's a good reason for that. They take risks. Entrepreneurs are wired for risk. They are prepared to make big bets. The bigger the bet, the bigger the potential failure. You end up looking stupid. You end up feeling like shit. You have a lot of explaining to do to your spouse, to your investors, to your employees. And it's jarring. A lot of times you end up in therapy. It's traumatizing, when you run out of money, when you can't make payroll, when you have to shut down a business. So what you're about to listen to is one of a handful, about a half dozen episodes that we recorded within the last couple of months that we've put together into this series called My Colossal Failure. And you're going to hear some great, great failures and challenges. Some of them aren't really failures in the sense that the entrepreneur caused the thing to happen. They are just big, giant meatballs of a challenge that ordinarily would be seemingly impossible to overcome. What I will tell you is every single person that is on this show that I interview is someone that not just bounced back, but bounced back big. Okay. I mean, these are people who run giant companies now and who learned, who are confident today, who had to break through the imposter syndrome that a lot of us entrepreneurs have anyway, but some of us have even bigger imposter syndromes than other people because of these failures. But you get back up and you dust yourself off and you just keep fighting that fight, and you do it enough times and you learn strategically enough to where success is inevitable. It's inevitable. So I hope you enjoy this episode and this entire series. I will see you guys on the other side. Thanks, folks. Andrew Spott, how are you?
I'm great this afternoon. How are you, Alex?
Fantastic. Andrew Spott, I'm going to exercise some of my deposition skills. You are the CEO of VividFront, true or false?
True.
VividFront is an innovative marketing agency specializing in all kinds of marketing channels, true or false?
True.
Marketing channels including digital marketing, video, storytelling,
narrative,
social media.
Exactly.
What's your favorite?
For us, I think what's our favorite is getting everything orchestrated and working together sort of as a concert would if you're listening to music. We found that the best way to connect with the customers of our clients is to orchestrate multiple marketing mediums across multiple channels and bring those all into alignment to deliver a message about a product or service across multiple ways and frequently to help a customer learn about a company before they buy and then bring them to the buy.
What is your personal favorite part of it though? Right. So like, for example,
question, yeah.
my absolute favorite part of the entire practice of law is depositions and trials. Everything before and after that is work. Is like work to me.
You're saying my personal favorite part.
What's your absolute favorite part of a project to work on?
Good question. Different question. For me, I think the magic starts in the first meeting when we get to learn about a client's business, how they got into their role, how the company became a specialist in whatever service or product it's selling, and walking through their business in a fast-paced manner that allows me to understand what is it that makes them tick, why do customers buy from them, and how can we tap into some sort of insight of behavior, of competitive advantage, of something special about the business or the customers that we can exploit to grow the business.
Yeah. So let me paraphrase what you just said to make sure I understood it correctly. There's a psychological aspect to marketing, right? And you like the tapping into buying preferences and the brain waves that cause business connections to be made.
Exactly. I think that I've become a geek about understanding someone's perspective.
Yeah.
So sort of empathetic marketing, like who is the customer? What do they feel? What do they think? You know, what do they do today? What car do they drive to get to work? What's bothering them? What are they proud of? How do you sort of figure out the psychoanalysis of who's buying? And it's also about authenticity, right? You have to have a company or service or product that can align with those people that they're going after as customers. And so it's the intersection of psychology and need. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where I read this, but I'm sure this is just, these are great marketing folk tales, but Cinnabon parks a kiosk at the beginning of a mall, and it's not to sell the cinnamon buns out of that kiosk. It's to trigger the law of familiarity so that when you smell the Cinnabon, when you walk into the mall, it's great. And you're like, oh, that's a great smelling cinnamon roll. But it's when you smell it the second time in the food court that they want you to buy, because at that point, the law of familiarity suggests that you're now smelling it for the second time and it's more familiar and you're more likely to buy it.
I will both validate your story and take it one step further.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear all the other tricks of the trade that you guys use.
So interesting story. I went to Ohio State University, go Bucks, for undergrad. And I built my own degree from engineering, science, psychology, industrial design, business, and combined all of those together to make an entrepreneurship degree. And one of the classes I took was a master's level brand design course with a tremendous professor who was very well connected. And we used to go on field trips to agencies that were in Columbus. One of the ones we went to is a company called, if I'm making this mistake of the name, maybe you'll edit it out later, but Shoot Gerdeman. And they were both a brand agency as well as a bit of a design firm. And they helped work on the innovation of the scent cannon. And so when you smell at certain Cinnabon locations, as well as Yankee Candle and M&M World in Times Square, what you're actually smelling is a designed scent, which is blasted out at a high volume into the surrounding space. And the intoxicating smell of a fresh baked cinnamon bun is actually a scent oil and a scent cannon in some of the locations, not every. And they're using that for sensory marketing. Yankee Candle is known for this. They pump it throughout their stores. All the candles have jars that the lids are on them. How's it smell so strong?
Right.
Because they're adding it. And M&M World in New York City, in fact, pipes the chocolate smell onto the sidewalk to entice you to walk in and
bastards.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh man.
Yeah. Shoot Gerdeman. So
yeah. Look, we just had an election, and I've been telling people, in case you haven't heard,
there was an
election recently
between.
It was presidential. There were some Senate candidates.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have been just spewing for the longest time how, regardless of which way you go politically and which candidate you liked, you cannot deny the fact that each party, each campaign, each candidate employs these Harvard educated, brilliant marketing minds whose entire job it is to evoke emotional responses from you. And they're doing it on Fox News. They're doing it on MSNBC. They're doing it through the radio that you listen to, the talk show hosts, whatever. And we are talking monkeys. We are here for our buttons to be pushed, and it is good. It's healthy to believe that we have independent thought capabilities and that we're smart people, and we should be. I hope we are. But it is undeniable that we are also at the mercy of these brilliant marketing minds who invented set cannons and
Exactly.
right? I mean, maybe you don't watch political ads, but like when you do you kind of feel and see that behind the curtain science that's happening and how they're trying to play on our emotions?
I think political advertising is one of the easiest to analyze because it's the most obvious in the relationship between either tone or message and the desired response. I think subtle marketing, subtle genius is much harder to execute because political action campaigns or committees rather that fund these ads, they're funding them really primarily for frequency. So spending money, getting more of that commercial shown, more repetitions, more minutes of someone's consumption of media per day being consumed by this political message, that matters almost more than the message itself because it's about creating enough repetition and enough frequency that makes it stick.
Yeah.
The reactions are really interesting, I think, more on social media. Sort of the great tragedy maybe of what happened in 2016 and all this election interference and this whole Mueller report and all this stuff that came out. As a marketer, I'm like, wow, what a great series of sort of understanding the audience and building content and swaying their opinion. Like I was maybe horrified at the attack on democracy and the accusation of the attack on democracy, but
you were like,
as a marketer, I'm like, wow, that guy.
Yeah. You were like, hats off, Cambridge Analytica.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guy who behind it, of course, ends up, as many Florida men do, being arrested.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read that about the campaign manager, but
are you talking about Paul Manafort?
No.
He was arrested for something else.
This is the director of digital in 2016 became he was living somewhere else, moved to Florida, took a bunch of the money and
are you talking about the guy that ran Cambridge Analytica? He
used them as part of their ad buying for Facebook.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name right now.
I got it.
Offline we'll find it.
Did you ever see that doc on Netflix called The Great Hack?
No, I haven't.
About that?
No.
It's terrifying.
I'll tell you, the interesting thing about Cambridge Analytica is I think had they not been in a federal investigation and in the media to kind of drag through this whole public shaming, their tech is really similar to a lot of tech that's very successful today. Ultimately, they're trying to sell you as the advertiser. They were as a political advertiser, selling you detailed targeting. Their targeting was of people who were undecided voters or swayable voters.
Right.
And then the information campaign began to push them in one direction or another. That is what Facebook tells you they can do. That's what Snapchat tells you they can do. I mean, they're not using it in this way, but these ad platforms are all offering the same thing.
Right.
A tailored message delivered to just who you want it to help you to push them to do something, buy something that you want.
At the end of the day, it's just pure influence peddling, right? It's pure.
Sure.
It's just, I'm going to influence you to do something, vote a certain way, share something, buy something, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all influence. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert, but you have to watch it. In The Great Hack, what they show is how Cambridge Analytica identified the persuadables, right? And then how they bombarded them with just hate ads, right? Just to piss them off. And the most terrifying part of it is when they zoom out. It happens at about halfway through the documentary. You still have to watch it, even though I'm spoiling it for you, because the entire thing is just earth shattering, but there's a point halfway through when you realize that it wasn't just about the 2016 election. It was about Brexit. It was about getting Bolsonaro elected in Brazil. And they zoom out and you see them operating in every major election all over the world. And it is like a James Bond movie. You know,
Incredible.
it is like, oh, this is the evil empire. I'll tell you this, and then we're going to get to the meat of this interview, Andrew. I was getting to your point about how Facebook and Twitter and those guys are so good at what they do in this way. The vitriol was getting so hot for me, and I'm a lawyer, I'm a litigator, and I was just getting so anxious and stressed out from watching my friends just talk so much nasty shit to each other that about 2 months ago, I just put myself on social media timeout, and I didn't turn it back on until after it was about 2 days ago, right? After the election, and I immediately felt my blood pressure going down. I immediately felt like instant
from the hiatus.
From the hiatus. Yeah. Like just, and I was like, oh, I'm not opening Facebook again, you know? And then I would cheat, right? Just to see. And then I immediately, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm getting off of Facebook again. Are you an active social media? You'd have to be for the line of business you're in. You're a follower. You follow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very engaged professionally. Personally, I'm sort of 2 years deep into posting a lot less.
Yeah.
Spending less time in Instagram and Facebook. I think that broadly speaking, social media has increased people's jealousy factor and is relatively toxic because it creates a repetitious experience of looking at other people's lives and seeing milestones and happy things and new cars and vacations and babies and houses and, you know, running a marathon, whatever it is. And generally speaking, people don't post the bad stuff. They don't post about a car accident. Well, sometimes they do. They don't post about their kids struggling in school. They don't post about their relationship problems, the grief they're suffering from losing a loved one. So you scroll through these feeds and you see a bunch of happy schmucks that are seemingly living their best life. And you don't have that perspective of your own life. In fact, you're probably most fixated on what's going wrong, not what's going right.
Right.
And so I think that for me, I wanted to consume less of that keeping up with the Joneses type concept. I also wanted to contribute less to it myself. So I've posted some stuff for like anniversaries or my daughter's birthday or something, but I'm generally not creating content personally anymore.
You're making such a great point too, Andrew, because it really is a whole lot of people posting things because of the impression they want to create about themselves, right?
It's a narrative.
It is. Yeah. I want people to believe this about me. It's one of the reasons it always drove me crazy. Do you notice how so many pictures have people holding a drink? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I know you don't want people to think that you're an alcoholic, but you must want people to think that you're a fun person. And that's how you subconsciously, subtly define fun. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like, yeah. And then, I don't know. There's definitely at some point down the road, if it hasn't been done already, someone ought to do a psychological study of because not everyone posts stuff. Not everyone has that sort of desire or drive to want to tell that narrative visually.
And many people are telling it to themselves as much as they are telling it to their audience.
Yeah.
There's a publication called Psychology Today. Great. If you're at all into this sort of vein of stuff, they have a lot of cutting edge material posted. I believe I saw it on their website, maybe another publication. Basically what the author of the study had surmised was that many people were posting things because they wanted to convince themselves of something. So if you have a friend who's posting a lot of happy couple pictures, you know, every two days a week, they're posting a selfie of themselves and their spouse. That person's actually more likely to have a bad relationship with their spouse, not a good one. And they're using this false front of social media to try to compensate for this true internal deficiency of the relationship.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting.
Well, and then I'm really always fascinated in kind of a sad way though, about the people that like overshare, you know, when like just life ain't going well, you know, for them. And there's just, and there's just kind of this this sort of emotional vomiting that happens, right?
Sure.
That
we've all seen it.
Yeah. And gosh, it's one thing when it's just me and this person and they're kind of just they're venting, and I totally get it. But gosh, how do you have such limited myopic awareness? You know what I mean? I don't know. For those people, and you know who you are, my heart goes out to you, even though I'm kind of making fun of you a little bit right now. So we're going to take a very short break, so that I can make sure that we've recorded everything correctly just now.
Perfect.
And B, so that you guys can hear all about the Gertzberg Law Firm. We'll be right back. Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. I'm CEO of the Gertzberg Law Firm and Cover My Six, and I wanted to share with you something we figured out long ago. The biggest value lawyers can give their clients is not getting them out of trouble. It's helping them avoid emergencies before they blow up. That's what Cover My Six is all about. To help you see why we're so confident in this audit, we're offering a no-cost, no-obligation business vulnerability assessment. My business lawyers will meet with you in person and go over your customer contracts, your employee handbooks, and other key legal documents, and identify any legal minefields they see. We'll also give you guidance on how to stop those minefields from destroying your business. We know lawsuits cost businesses far more than money, but we also know that most of them are entirely preventable, and we know how to stop them before they start. Go to covermysix.com to see if you qualify and sign up today. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show. Andrew Spott, we are back.
Thank you.
Andrew, it was killing you. It was killing you during break that you didn't know, that you couldn't recall the name of the ex-Trump campaign manager who had recently been arrested, his digital marketing manager, and you forced me at gunpoint to look it up, and his name is Brad Parscale. And it is, in fact, a funny Florida man story. He'd been drinking, he had weapons, he may have threatened suicide, wife cuts and bruises, fled the house, urgent call to the police. It was a combustible situation, as described by the Florida Sun Sentinel. Anyway, he's now, he was arrested, and one of the many Trump affiliates who got to see some time. Andrew, let's get into the meat of this conversation. The real reason, or among the reasons, but the real primary reason that I asked you here was to be a guinea pig in the first of a limited series of podcast episodes that we are calling My Colossal Failure and how I overcame it. And so you will be the first, Andrew, to tell your story of woe. And you told me a little bit about it the other day, and I've actually been thinking about it. I'm going to try not to interrupt too much, but I'm probably going to. And so the idea here, folks, if you're just tuning in, is that this podcast for 140 some episodes now has been really focused on entrepreneurs and on the entrepreneurial journey. And as one, or as I try to be one, and Andrew, you are one.
I'll label you as one as well, Alex.
Thank you. And we both work primarily with entrepreneurs, right?
Professional services, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And one thing that anyone who is or works around entrepreneurs can agree on is that failure is a part of growth. You cannot, everyone you see who you think is a really successful person is really either currently overcoming or has broken through some tremendous colossal failures, right? And I know I have, I'm certain that I have failed way more than I've ever succeeded. But I thought it would be interesting to assemble a handful of entrepreneurs and then learn their failure story, right? Their favorite failure story, because I know you've had more than one. I assume because you're a successful entrepreneur today that you've had more than one.
I always say if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. Yeah.
Exactly. So Andrew, you started telling me a little bit about it the other day, but let's start from the beginning. And just so that we've got a good time frame. So VividFront has been around for how many years?
I think we're in our 12th year. Right
12th year. So the story you're about to tell us was
more than 12 years
more
ago.
than 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, Andrew. Tell us what happened.
And I'll actually dial it back to almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
The first real, I would say real defined as multiple six figures of revenue, for example. The first real business I had was in disrupting the food ordering space at a college campus. We built a business that took restaurants that had no website, nothing but an ad and a coupon book and a phone number, and we built an online ordering business to serve those students at Ohio State. Really successful, sort of disrupting this space of how business was done with restaurants, leveraging my insight with my own generation that people liked to order things online, and that would be easier. So we were very successful with that business, learned a lot, did a lot, sold it. So the next project that I found myself working on was a partnership with a gentleman who had a tremendously successful lighting business, lighting and home furnishings, ranging from decorative lamps and chandeliers and everything you might find in a beautiful house, also including commercial lighting like we have in this room or like you might find over a parking lot. So I partnered with him and set out to disrupt the lighting industry in the same way that we had done restaurants and bars before that. And at the time, really, there were a couple websites that were in the online lighting space, Lamps Plus and the predecessor to Wayfair, CSN stores. And those were focused on big lighting lines, names you've heard of like Kichler. Mm-hmm. And that was all pretty mature. Meanwhile, a lot of what people were buying at a lighting showroom, if you went to your local lighting store, a lot of what you saw there was not the big names. It was boutique designs and small family-owned businesses, kind of a so-called cottage industry built up of dozens of small brands that had been doing it for decades and were really good at their craft. So we set out to digitize the catalogs and build e-commerce websites around all of this inaccessible lighting product that wasn't online, as well as the mainstream stuff. So this was 2008, and we built this business. We built 6 websites, over 100,000 items on these websites, and built a team, built a drop shipping team, built a customer service team, built a data entry team, marketing team, technology, all of this. And
like how many employees total?
So blended between the web business and the retail sort of bricks and mortar business, more than 30.
Okay.
And many were inherited and repurposed, so to speak. Like people that had been working the showroom floor became phone sales for the website. So in many ways, the e-commerce business was eating the traditional business that existed before I came in and partnered with the owner of the old business.
Okay.
Fast forward to, early 2009. We've got this credit crunch happening, banks going sideways, Lehman Brothers, all of this Wall Street stuff. And it trickled down. It trickled down to a crunch of the mortgage crisis. So residential debt vehicles became hard to seek. People's home equity lines of credits were frozen. People's sort of homes that they were selling became illiquid. It was the real estate market kind of froze up. Commercial as well. Commercial credit was a huge challenge. So we're kind of in the middle of this business growing. My partner gambling sort of his current enterprise, me working 100-hour weeks to innovate and disrupt a very sort of cottage industry. And we watched as all of the sales dropped in unison with the sort of round-the-clock news cycle of doom and gloom. And I think for about 2.5 weeks, not a single order came in across a half dozen different e-commerce websites that were doing run rates that were in the 7 figures 3 weeks prior.
Wow.
And it was a horrific experience. I don't even know if I was 23 years old at this time, maybe still 22. I thought I knew everything about the world. Had just sold a business, had just kind of done, both graduated and had a business success. And sort of, I figured I was on, a streak or something like that. And I had to, on the day that this happened, we had to sort of face reality and start laying people off. And so my business partner, who had hired many of the people who had become the e-commerce team and working on the overall web business, he decided to make a speech and do an all company meeting. I had to go around to, 4 different entrances of the building with the locksmith and change the locks while this was happening. And I remember as clear as yesterday, the recurring nightmare of his speech ending earlier than planned and them sort of not really wanting to hear anymore and all filing out of the building. And I'm kneeling on the ground next to a locksmith, changing the locks, basically as the architect of this entire shift in their business that resulted in many eggs being in the e-commerce basket. It all kind of come crashing down.
Were you an investor?
Yeah.
Was it like
more of the resources that were being used were my partners though, because he was contributing distributorships and infrastructure, and he already had a warehouse, and
he had the brick and mortar.
I contributed a lot of the technology stuff, the marketing stuff, the what we built that was digital.
How much of you were in your 20s, but how much of your total net worth or whatever did you have in this business?
Oh man, at the time, for sure the majority.
Okay.
I was 49%, he was 51%. It was devastating.
Got it. So then what happens?
So, we basically were trying to figure out what we were going to do. The markets weren't turning around. There was no thaw in sight. And we had just started importing our own containers of merchandise from China. I think on the day that all these people were laid off and this sort of, locksmith moment happened, I think there was like a container on the way from China that we had no way to pay for when it landed.
Wow.
So it was devastating. Ultimately, I had to sort of very quickly survey the landscape. No longer could I pay myself a salary because we didn't have money coming in. And I decided to make my former partner, an offer to give back my 49% and, no buyout, nothing like that, but forgiving my 49% of the liabilities in the business. I had never been in the business of lighting before that and really never planned to be in it again. So it made sense for me to offer, a very low friction, reversal, so to speak, of our relationship, and give him at least all the equity so that if he was able to turn it around, it would be his. So that's what he agreed to do. And that's what happened.
Okay. So is it fair to say that you did well in that restaurant ordering online business and you put most of that money into this business?
Yes.
And you walked away from that?
Yes.
Okay. And without saying what the number is, it was a substantial amount and it represented most of your savings. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. I think at the end of this experience, I had no real savings.
Okay.
And that was,
Okay.
For someone that, as an entrepreneur, your own capital is the most important thing you could have to push something forward. So it was scary.
Yeah. So, and the other aspect to that is, I don't know if you are smarter. I'm guessing that you were and still are smarter than me in this way, but if you're like every other entrepreneur, your expenses creep up with your income, right? So you have this big exit out of the restaurant business and you buy a new car and you upgrade your lifestyle, and or did you keep it conservative and not do those things?
I at the time I kept it conservative.
Okay. So you're smart. You're definitely smarter than most entrepreneurs I know.
Yeah.
Good.
It was, I think, I've always lived by a lot of rules when it comes to finance. Like I'm never going to buy something I can't afford to keep. And I think at the time I was 22 when I started this business. So I believe the year that for sure. The year that I was running this business, I was living on Ohio State campus in a house with like 3 or 4 other guys, not really living a professional lifestyle. Let's say that, but it was also cheap to still live on a college campus. So
yeah.
At the time I had very little luxury.
So you started over. You went effectively bankrupt without filing for bankruptcy. You just had nothing.
Yeah.
So what happens next?
So,
well, first, actually, before we get there, from a stress level standpoint, talk about that. Where are you? Where's your head? Where are you emotionally at this time in your life?
I think I'm lucky in the sense that my perspective is unchanging. If it's any day above ground is a good day, is what I say. So if I have my heartbeat and I have my family and friends around me, it doesn't matter. None of this stuff really matters. You can't take it to the grave. And I don't think anyone's life should be measured in material. So
that's great.
I really didn't care. I think that I felt more than anything deeply frustrated by the ability for an industry to have a macroeconomic stumble and have good innovation fall down. Yeah. And I think that I think if I had more capital at that point in time, I might have been more stubborn and stuck to it more than I did. But I think because we had a full warehouse of unturned inventory, a credit line tapped out, just laid off people and ruined their lives, so to speak, I don't think I had the fortitude to push through, right? But failure is an experience that's only productive if you can take inventory of what went wrong.
Yeah.
So what I did next, I think, is a contemplation of that. When I sold the online food ordering business, we signed the things you sign when you sell either the whole business or you do an asset, agreement, non-solicitation, non-compete, those types of things. So around the same time that this, lighting business had kind of unfolded and exploded in my face, the non-solicitations were expiring from the sale of my old business. And we had served national restaurant chains like Domino's. We had served regional restaurant groups that owned multiple locations of multiple restaurants. We also were serving mom and pop single location pizza shops. We were serving bars. We were serving retailers. So I had, hundreds of people in my Rolodex that were happy customers and liked working with me and liked working with my partner. And we had good relationships. So when we sold, we kept them as amicable as we could. They expected us to never be there for the rest of our lives. It was a thing we started while we were college students. So I think it was a perfect liquidity moment in the sense that we didn't burn any bridges with our customers. They understood why we sold. So I found myself in a situation where I had no income. I didn't have anything to do, which was for the first time in my life, dating back to when I was 10 years old. I always had something I was buying and selling on the internet since before I was, I think around 10 or 11 is when I started selling online. And what I did was send an email to, and some phone calls, but mostly an email to contacts that I'd had from the old business. And I said, this is what I've been up to. Hope everything's been going well with the new owner. I am getting back into the marketing game. I'm offering marketing consulting, business consulting. I can design you a logo, a website, a brochure, catalog, build you any website, run marketing campaigns, whatever you need. I need work. Here's how you can reach me. I sent that email, Hail Mary, out, BCC, to I think like 200 or 300 people. I can't remember. And I went out with my friends or girlfriend at the time, or I can't quite recall the evening, but the next day I had more than a couple replies. So many, in fact, that I had to quickly find contractors to execute the work that I'd offered to do for people, and had to build a team. So that was March or April of 2009. The first sort of batch of projects took almost 6 months to work through. And I went on a road trip with one of my best friends, 10,000 miles, 30 days, 17 national parks and 26 cities.
Wow. That's awesome.
It was great out west. I'll share you the route on Google Maps. I still have it saved. It was outstanding. And I asked myself this question and took my time outdoors to kind of process it. Do I want to do this? Do I want to keep doing this? Do I want more of this type of work? Because up until then, I had not incorporated the business. I took on the engagements as a sole proprietor. I hired 1099 contractors to, do pieces of the work that I couldn't handle. And I decided on that trip I was in a tent, I think in Yellowstone, writing a proposal at 3:00 in the morning, West Coast time. And I decided, you know what? If this is like what I'm choosing to do, instead of look at the stars in Yellowstone to like finish this email or proposal or whatever I was working on. I must like it. So I incorporated the business in August of 2009, and that is how VividFront came to be.
Wow. So, I mean, it is truly a story of there would be no VividFront but for this colossal failure that was this lighting company. How's that lighting company doing? How did it end up?
So one of the 6 businesses websites that we had started underneath this American Lighting Group thing was LED. And my former partner decided to focus heavily on LED, and he's still doing it today. Very successful.
Okay.
LED, more than decorative, more than commodity, it rose faster than the rest. At the time, I don't know if you recall any of this stuff, but in 2010, I think roughly like 10 or 12, certainly during the Obama years, incredible federal incentives and state incentives started cropping up for swapping out your light fixtures for LED.
For efficient lighting, yeah.
Yeah. Many power companies even offered rebates to customers who would swap out their lighting to reduce load, especially in states like California with rolling blackouts. They would almost pay you to take out, a light and replace it with something LED.
So the answer is they did okay.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really rough transition from where I left to where they are now, but ultimately successful.
Yeah. Andrew, that's a great story, man. I especially like that the decision point came, in a tent or looking up at the stars in Yellowstone. There's something cosmic about that moment in time and that place. At VividFront, so you're the CEO, 30 employees, hundreds, if not thousands of clients and projects that you've worked on. For my own benefit, because it's such a creative business, because it's so subjective, right? I mean, obviously you have systems in place and you have processes that are very objective, very, if this, then that, this comes next, right? But I know that there are times that you present something to a client and they're like, Andrew, we are not on the same page, right? I know this because you are a professional services organization, just like me, right? And there are just times when we cannot sync up entirely with our clients. That's part of it. I'm wondering how you learn from those experiences, how do you systematize, do you iterate other challenges, obstacles, failures in your business since this big, giant, colossal failure that led to your business?
Okay, so I'm going to go 2 directions here.
Yeah.
One, because I was brought down by one industry. So here's sort of how it happened. So when I got it back into business with these people, they were all in some relationship to restaurant, bars, or retail. And I very quickly started looking beyond that sector, because sort of like a Great Depression era grandparent who hoards objects and food because they don't know if there's going to be another Great Depression. I hoarded diversity of clients and engagements.
Yeah.
So from the very beginning, we took on e-commerce clients, lead generation clients where we did marketing, clients where we did design, clients where we did just consulting, everything under the sun. And so what that meant for me was that, okay, some huge sector of the economy could go bad, but we'd be okay.
Yeah.
And really my error in sending an email BCC to hundreds of people was, in my perspective in that moment, the sky was falling. The GDP, and home sales and all this stuff was being sort of victimized by this issue. But, 90% of the economy was fine. Mm-hmm. Right. And so for me, that lesson I took forward into the next business being VividFront to say, let's diversify. So today we're about 75, 80% consumer facing business clients. The rest are B2B. We are still doing both e-commerce and lead generation. And what we did was we built an in-house team over time of full-time W-2 employees and all of the crafts that are necessary to build both the experiences and the campaigns that acquire revenue for our clients. And we did that to own our own outcome and our ability to deliver results. So today a company can come to us and we can do everything: the logo, the brand strategy, their website, their marketing campaigns. We can build their CRM systems. We can tie into their, inventory systems and ERPs. all of it under one roof. And we designed it that way to make sure that we could control our own destiny and not be reliant on other people and not be reliant on one industry to succeed. So the challenge has been, we don't have a niche. So we've had to build systems and processes. We use a bastardized version of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System.
I love it.
Friendly plug for Gino Wickman in the book Traction.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been said on your podcast before.
Yeah, I love it. We advertise everything from it on our wall here.
I almost called you out for your EOS is showing.
Yeah, my EOS does fall out all the time.
But we built processes to allow us to take on any type of client. So we ask questions in our discovery process, and we build tactics and strategies that are agnostic to client, agnostic to industry. And it actually gives us an advantage because we don't take a cookie cutter approach, because we don't take more than a couple clients maybe in any one space. We're always opening new domains, which creates new connections in our brains. I mean, we see stuff that happens in a B2B service provider and how they look at something. We can take that insight to a consumer brand. So we love the intersections that we create by not doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah. Andrew Spott, this was good. Thank you. This was a great story. I feel like we've extracted several lessons from your one failure, which really wasn't a failure. It was although arguably an investment failure, but it was definitely a challenge and definitely something from which you would have to have bounced back. And I can imagine what it's like, because I've been there too, when you've got nothing, right? And you're looking around and you're like, holy shit, I had a bunch of stuff, a bunch of money and investment and potential with this one company and dreams with this one company, and then you've got nothing. And so I know what that's like. And I love that you have built this incredible company. And so you are and were a great guinea pig for this limited podcast series. Andrew, I thank you for joining. Is there anything that I should have asked you? Is there anything that you want to get out there into the universe before we adjourn?
I think a message to prospective clients of marketing agencies would be that failure is how you succeed. One of the things that's really special about our best client relationships and missing from our worst ones is having space to fail.
Yeah.
Gives you opportunity to innovate, try something.
Yeah.
And I think that certainly in my professional services world of marketing and design and technology execution, there's not much room for failure. And I think that in my own learning and development and growing our agency over the years, I think the best stuff has happened when we've failed and learned from it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, that's good. And I agree. Folks, listen, thank you for tuning in as long as you have, and for experimenting with us here. Andrew is at VividFront, which is VividFront.com, I presume, right? And you type in Andrew Spott with 2 T's, and the first thing that comes up is his LinkedIn, so you can find him there. Andrew, thank you. I appreciate it.
Alex, thank you very much.
All right, folks, we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we thank you for listening. And remember to check out the Gertzberg Law Firm. Whether you are starting, running, growing, or transitioning a business, or if you need to create or update your wills, trust, or estate plan, our team will give you an incredible level of personalized attention and a passionate commitment to meet your objectives. We are veteran-owned, and our award-winning lawyers have the highest ranking from Super Lawyers and Avvo. We have also recently received the coveted Weatherhead 100 Upstarts Award for a second year in a row, and we are among the first Ohio business law firms to offer our clients a non-billable alternative on every single matter we handle for them, and opt out of the billable hour. What we are most proud of, though, are the many things our clients rely on us for. We successfully defend them in court, but we also help them avoid the courtroom with our Cover My Six service. We protect their assets through good estate and succession planning, and we assist our clients in many non-legal business services like recruiting and business development. We want our clients to feel confident in their choices and to help them resolve any issues or potential problems quickly and efficiently so they can get back to what they love, running their businesses. More than just litigators, we are trusted advisors, problem solvers, and growers of businesses. Let us help you and your company. Call us or find us online to learn more. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.